Okay, so it finally seems like the higher-ups decided to do something incredible, huge, and amazing for the Boruto franchise as a whole. Because it's no secret, ever since the end of the original Boruto anime, Boruto Naruto Next Generations, it kind of seems like Shueisha and the higher-ups, the powers that be, haven't really been doing anything to kind of push this series to make things happen for it in a major way. And for the most part, this franchise has kind of been basically left to its own devices, so to speak, to make things happen as far as letting the content speak for itself. And considering the fact that, Boruto is actually a huge IP, it's a spin-off of one of the most successful series of all time, Naruto, you would think that this entire time there's been some type of machine that's been pushing it and making things happen to make it have a very huge impact. And despite the success that it's had regarding being one of the highest read on most of the big streaming apps and all of that good stuff, you would think, again, it was getting promo or some sorts like behind the scenes. But for the most part, it's essentially been up to the story itself to make things happen up until this point. Because something major happened in Japan, and it seems to be translating very, very well for the success of the Boruto story, Boruto 2 Blue Vortex as a whole. And yeah, the way they did it, I'm not gonna lie, I'm very, very impressed. And before we continue, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you get notified when I drop these videos, because yeah, there's anime and manga news all around the world always happening, and I'm gonna cover it for you. Because yes, people, Boruto has been doing its thing for a while now. Ever since really we got to the 2 Blue Vortex aspect, it seems like this series, at the very least content-wise, has been speaking for itself as far as being a very enjoyable story, very suspenseful story, seeing the characters grow. Like, it's just done a complete 180 in comparison to the previous series as far as reception goes, because to be honest with you, Boruto Part 1, for the most part, especially once like Hara became a thing, already was a very intriguing story. Like, there was no questions on when Kashi and Koji came in and all of that stuff. Like, the story was cooking. But once 2 Blue Vortex became a thing, that's where it was just like unanimously, even when the story was kind of at its lows, it was still very much so suspenseful, intriguing, and something that kept the fans going. But honestly, when you want something to have major impact, when you want something to actually become what it's supposed to be, what it should be, there's no denying that it needs promo. Whether it's the most giant of Goliaths like a franchise like the Boruto story, Naruto story, or something of a smaller title, ultimately, if there's no push behind the scenes, a series or franchise can easily get lost in the shuffle or just not perform like it's supposed to be, because again, it needs promo. The equivalent would be like, imagine an artist, right? A musician that is actually very talented and is actually signed to a record label, but there's no announcement that this artist is signed, there's no promo behind it, there's nothing behind it other than this artist basically doing what he's supposed to do to kind of make stuff happen. Well, the artist is only going to be able to go so far, because yeah, you need that extra push, especially if you're trying to make it into, whether it be mainstream success or whether it just be in general into the topic of conversation of some of the bigger artists out there. Like, you need that promo, you need that stamp. And don't get me wrong, there's those anomalies that they come in, all of a sudden they get some crazy massive success out of nowhere, but for the most part, promotion and push behind the scenes is very much so required in order to make an impact that a series needs to do what it needs to do. And recently in Japan, to commemorate the 7th volume of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, they did this massive promo where I want to say it was like outside of a train station or outside of a venue. They did this big art piece of like the Boruto 2 Blue Vortex story with all of the characters, with Boruto and of course his time skip look and whatnot. And it seems like this thing worked incredibly, because since this promo went live out there, essentially here's what we've been seeing. On February 5th, 2026, here's the Shoseki Top 500. Essentially, these are the volumes that charted in manga, and Boruto has had, I want to say, all of its volumes charting in one form or another, all the way from volume 1 to the latest volume, volume 7, are all charting. And you're probably thinking, based off these placements, like, okay, that's great, that's not the biggest thing in the world. But consider this, things like this primarily happen when an anime adaptation is airing. You only see back catalog volumes of a series start to sell when like a new season of an anime happens, or there's a major moment in the series going down. That's when normally things happen. And as it stands right now, as far as the story goes, while it's always kind of cooking and always something interesting is going on, there's nothing like significant enough to really warrant to say like, oh, that's the reason why, because the story did it. I mean, don't get me wrong, the story itself has been selling each volume, but in order to get back catalog, you need, again, that external push from outside sources. And I think one of the key factors to making this thing a success is not only just like, hey, there's a poster and the poster sold it, because a poster could do some stuff, you know, essentially a promo of sorts can do some things, but here's how they really got people. And I think as far as a marketing strategy goes, this is something to take note in general for anybody, to be clever with things, because here's what they did. They put out 2 pieces of information as far as what the story is like. Because remember, in case you don't know about Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, one of the major aspects that kind of changed the entire series at the very end of part 1 of the Boruto manga was the whole omnipotence, fate, destiny swap thingy-majig that happened with Kawaki and Boruto. And so the powers that be, they put out a press release first of like, hey, so here's what the story is like. And this thing right here had a lot of people like, what? Boruto, who had lived a life of utter loneliness, was taken under the protection of the 7th Hokage Naruto Uzumaki and brought to the Hidden Leaf Village. Though he often clashed with the Hokage's son Kawaki Uzumaki, the two gradually became close, good rivals and brothers in spirit, and Boruto slowly began to feel at home in the village. However, amid a series of enemy attacks, Boruto suddenly betrays the village and murders Naruto. Can the Hidden Leaf Village capture Boruto, the man who killed the Hokage? Against a brutal traitor, a new battle for the shinobi begins. And most people who have no idea about what's been going on in Boruto, have no idea maybe that Boruto 2 Blue Vortex even exists, probably read that and went, wait, Kawaki Uzumaki? Boruto the traitor? What? Again, this was kind of false information that was fed to the public to grab interest. But then alongside it, they said, all right, yo, we don't want to just leave people thinking that this is one thing. Let's give them what the story is actually like. Even though, again, that's not like misleading, because as far as in-series goes, that's what a lot of people believe actually happened thanks to Ada's omnipotence. But here's the true story. People's memories were rewritten and Boruto became a criminal guilty of killing the Hokage. The cause of this calamity was a power known as omnipotence wielded by Ada. Will people's memories ever be restored? Can the 7th Hokage Naruto be reclaimed? Can the Hidden Leaf Village be protected from a new threat? This is the story of Boruto, the boy cast out from the village. And honestly, I felt like that was genius. It's kind of taking modern social media marketing per se and utilizing it in a different way. It's the same concept of kind of putting a juicy title, even though some people like to say clickbait, even though the point of getting people to click on your videos is to, you know, like, hey, here's why you should click on my video. And if you're not lying about what actually is happening in the video, then it's not clickbait. But that's a whole different subject entirely. And yeah, it's been a massive success. I'll put up here a bunch of the comments, because social media in Japan has been explosive with a lot of different takes on what's happening and people just being excited about Boruto and being like, whoa, I didn't know this was happening. And this is a very big deal and a very good look for the franchise. And I love to see it. I'm gonna be honest with you, like, Boruto's story is something that I really appreciate. You know what I'm saying? Like, not only do I enjoy it, not only am I somebody that, you know, I've been reading the Naruto series since way back when, so of course I followed up with the Boruto story, but even on a personal level, to be honest with you, Boruto kind of reminds me of like my nephew. And so whenever I see the series, you know, having something epic happen, it reminds me of him, and I always just be like, go nephew. And honestly, I guess one of the biggest lessons in all of this thing is, hey, if you have a product, if you have an artist, if you have, you know, anything that you're actually trying to have some sort of success, you need to actually have that push. You need to actually make things happen and not just leave it to the story itself to sell it. Because no matter how good that story is, it's only going to go so far. Hence why I try my best to sometimes promote other stuff of mine as well, whether it be the book that I put out, the new album that I put out. I mean, I've even started up with pushing my vlogging channel. If you want, you could check it out as well. Although I'm trying to figure out how to make that one kind of happen, simply because, well, I've been kind of looking for inspiration with like popular vloggers, and the only one that kind of comes to mind for the most part is like, I remember Casey Neistat. That was an incredibly smart individual. And I'm just kind of like, damn, if only I could have Casey come to my house and like, you know, show me how it's done, that would be amazing. I'm just saying, I'm right here. But yeah, shout outs to the Boruto story, shout outs to Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, shout outs to my nephew one more time, because I love to see it. I love to see the wins. And shout out to the higher ups for seemingly actually giving a little bit of a behind the scenes push so this thing can actually happen. Because again, like, why would you actually, you know, sign something up? Like, why would you sign Ikamoto? Why would you sign Kishimoto to this deal with this Boruto story and not actually, you know, put the muscle behind it to make it succeed? Push your product, push your artist, push whatever it is if you truly believe in it, or if you got love for it. That's all I have for this one. I'm Tim. As always, people, have an awesome day. Peace in.